And today, one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to try to get some work done on Vlad's BIMOTA part. His BMW part is done. Whenever he wants, he can pick it up. And we'll try to finish up this BIMOTA thing so he can get his bikes put back together. And I always try, of course, we try, but we don't succeed all the time, to do all our work and painting and body work and everything in the winter and ride all summer. Well, sometimes we have to make some compromises. In this case, this was one of them. Now, coming up very soon is our oldies bike night, and we're going to try to get the other people that we ride with that have two strokes to meet at my house at 5 o'clock on old bike night at Rutt's Hut, and we shoot the video every year of it. Dale was the winner last year. I think they have him judging this year, but it's really irrelevant. It's not in the class of bikes that we enter. And I don't like to think of any of my bikes as show bikes. I think of them as driver bikes. Because if you couldn't ride them, there's not much point in having them. That's for sure. The whole idea of everything we do is we have bikes to ride when summer comes. Well, no. Or BIMOTA parts to fix when summer comes. I'm not sure. But one thing we always have, no matter what the weather is, we always have hungry fish. Oh my God. Good thing these fish don't drink coffee. And Karen and I were so happy this morning when we did our perp walk through the garden. We have flowers virtually everywhere here. Karen's little veggie garden is, we haven't bought salad in so long. It's so much fun doing this, it really is. And it's so nice to every morning be able to come out into the garden like this, check out the growth, all the new stuff that's growing, and plan out a day and try to make every day different than the day before. And finally, the hydrangea we planted in Karen's little special garden here. We put some of that on the video for the people who like to share our whole life, not just the motorcycling part. And you'll probably be looking at this as the backdrop of the whole next winter's painting building season when we do the RD. But for right now, we're going to go down and get working on that BIMOTA part. The first part of this BIMOTA repair, this is that structural resin, and that dried up beautifully. We trimmed that off already. I've just got to do the cosmetic part of that now and back mask off this bottom. I guess that'd be the easiest way to do this. Since the paint is all coming off of it anyway, and we can make a parting line here. And there's a crack here. I want to try to fill that in if I can. And there's some road rash, little scratches. We'll try to buff that out when we're all done. But the big thing is to get started on this. This is the part now that we're going to try to very carefully sand this in. Get this to match up. Put a little bit of an edge on this. Okay, now we've got that. Now we can take, it's the easiest way to do this. There's always an easy way to do all this stuff. Now, trying to get this edge nice is an important thing. Let's see if we can get this as nice as possible. We have that little crack right there. That, and we want to, before we do anything, try to fill that in. I'm going to do a John Pothier, a little repair here at the end of the day. I'm going to mix what John has tried and its work. I haven't done it yet, but this would be a good place to do it. He's mixed up clear and then put enough the color urethane into it so you can fill up either in his case on the Corvette, a stone chip, and he said it works great. So we'll try to fill that up. This whole crack could be filled up. We're going to find out how that works out, of course. And then, of course, sand and buff it out. That's going to be a whole nother part of this job. But for right now, I want to get the big heavy-duty sanding done. So to start with, I took a nail file and some 2000 grit and just flattened it out. And I can see there's quite a, let's call it a ditch for lack of a better word there, that I'm going to try to fill with that material as per how John has been doing it. And I think that's going to work out okay. But that's going to be the second part of this job. Before we do anything else, we know we want to clean this part. Get any, I'm sure Vlad has wax and grease and God knows what else, road tar, Brooklyn stuff on it. But anyway, all beside the point. Now, anytime you're doing a job like this, you got to decide how many hours you're willing to put into this, as opposed to just buying a new part. A part like this can very quickly run into where it's not cost effective to do it, because you're doing so many steps, and every one of them requires well, just hours of shop time. So a lot of people think you just go to a touch-up brush and yeah, sure, and it'll look like that too. But anyway, now to salvage this part, and I say salvage, it is exactly the right word here. I want to see what we could possibly do. This will be a real challenge to see how this is going to work. So first thing we have to do is figure out where we want to put the parting line for this refinish. And I see the old parting line right there. I think we're going to go right over the old parting line. I think that's really, look at what happened here. This is all blistered and chopped up and everything. So anyway, we're going to figure out pretty much how we want to do this. And I'm really not sure right now until I lay this out with some tape. But we do have a parting line where this part has already been repaired. So I'm going to try to go right over the old parting line, thinking that worked. I don't know if that's going to be, yeah, that'll be fine. So the first thing is to get out some tin foil and back mask off all the stuff that we're not going to use, so we don't get any overspray on it or don't damage it. The first thing is going to be to try to get some of these really rough spots down. And this is the bottom of the bike that you don't really see, so okay, so that's roughed in. The rest I have to do by hand. Back here I'm going to do the same thing. It's all full of places where, well, I'm not sure whether this part is, the plastic is the issue or the repairs, and there's been several repairs already. But then the rest of it I'll have to do by hand, and that's when it starts getting time consuming. Now the next step on this is a step we have to do over and over again. We want to hit this with some thin CA. That's going to penetrate down in and give us a good bond into whatever we're going to do here with bodywork. I'm going to try to do it with some thick CA. Now this is the glass-filled Bondo that we've used to do these similar repairs in the past. Now what happened is these gouges are so deep that to fill them with CA is just not a practical way to do it. And since there's no strength here, And since it's underneath the bike where you don't see it, I'm not going to worry too much about the Bondo. There's a couple of spots in here I want to do too. I hand sanded this all by hand. Quite a labor intensive thing, and now this is just going to be a skim coat of Bondo on there. And I hope I'll let that dry. Well, I'm going to let it dry overnight, in fact, and come back to it tomorrow and then work on it and detail it out before I try to paint it. Now, normally I try to avoid Bondo on any spots, but there are some places that just filling that up with $25 worth of CA I don't think is going to be the answer. That we get into that area where is this really a practical thing, where now what I want to do here, I want to take my trowel, and this is trickier than I thought it would be, because I put a lot of time into sanding this already to try to get it smooth, and I'd like to, in a perfect world, you'd like to make it perfect, of course, but there's limitations here. But this will be, I'm sure this will be perfectly good for the bottom of a motorcycle that you probably don't even see when you do an oil change. But again, we give it our best shot right to the very end. Now that I got that. This one up here is going to need some little work. And this is a job. If I try to rush this through and do all the paint and everything all on one day, it's going to be a mess. And then when you do that, you always run into things that don't dry properly and wind up having more headaches than it's worth. So in my case, I'd rather just take the extra day. By tomorrow, this is going to be ready to sand out beautifully. It'll powder right off. I'll get the primer, and we want it. Biggest thing here is to do it with sealer primer so that the thinner is not going to go down into the parts here. Now I can see by the way these bolt holes are all elongated, these parts are not in perfect alignment, that's for sure. Now, and that could be from the crash, that could be from who knows what. Or they just, it was crooked when I made it. You never know. Anyway, and I do want to try that thing. I will get to try it tomorrow with that John Pathia suggested. And he's had good luck. And remember, he's a pretty good modeler too, as well as a car enthusiast, a Corvette enthusiast. All right, so with this in mind, and knowing that we're going to let this dry overnight, I guess there's no rushing here. Again, another good point to make with any of these kind of jobs. When you try to rush them, you always wind up paying. Now again, because this is a part that's probably very expensive, I'm just going to guess I'm guessing, I know it's expensive. And probably not available off the shelf for, like an RD part would be from AutoZone. Not going to buy these from AutoZone, that's for sure. But anyway, we will take the extra time, and I will not rush this. The steps this needs to have happen now. Most important, this is going to dry overnight. I will come back tomorrow, and I'll be thinking about it in my head. I think I can airbrush in all the black, maybe even airbrush in a coat of clear. I don't know until I actually start doing it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy riding your BIMOTA. And Vlad, this one's for you, baby. Thanks for watching.
Oh, I sent you the information about the program.
Is this race coming to an early end, Miles? Round and round. Oh, Daddy's gonna pass you. Uh-oh. Comes a car. Go, baby, go. I think it's time for a little motorcycle. How about a little R1?
It just tells you what they do. How do you feel?
it.